And we are live. Welcome to our episode of Business Focus Live with me, John, wherein we talk about business related topics as well as news from here and around the world. If new to this channel, don't forget to subscribe and let's get started. And we're back. Today is Friday, June 26th. So thank you for all the viewers for joining me today. So we have a lot of things to talk about and some very interesting. So for our first topic of discussion is the scandal that is involved with the company of Wirecard. Now, for those who are not familiar with Wirecard, they're a German company that primarily uh, provides payment processes similar to how PayPal works, and they also provide financial services. Now, they are enrolled in a scandal wherein they were said to have lost $2 billion worth of amount of money. So what happened to that? We'll discuss about a little bit later on. So to start off, according to the article from Reuters, so the company, as mentioned, has book accounts and has lost almost a little over $2 billion worth of money, which likely never existed. So you be the judge whether if the said scandal were true or not. And what's surprising here is you'll be interested to find out later on. It span across the global, across the ocean in terms of the Philippines is embroiled or attached in the scandal. So I'll explain a little bit later on. So as mentioned, so Wirecard is a financial technology firm based in Germany. With the scandal that is there embroiled in has already engulfed them and has tarnished the reputation of the company. What's interesting here is it all started when a whistleblower allegedly said that it owed its success to the alleged web of sham of transaction, which would have likely never existed. And what's interesting here, sorry, that this surfaced when late last year, I think, when Ernst and Young, an auditing firm, refused to sign off its 2019 accounts and one was unable to confirm the existence of the 1.9 billion euros in cash balances. So where did they come up with those amounts and where did it go to if it existed? So according to Ernst Young, they stated that the management board of Wirecard assesses that there were a prevailing likelihood that the bank trust account balances in the amount of 1.9 billion euros did not exist. Now, step in the state prosecutor in Munich. They are now investigating and considering issuing warrant arrest for its former CEO, disgraced CEO at that, Markus Braun, as well as one of the board member who was fired, John Marsalek. Hopefully, I'm pronouncing his name correctly. And according to the head of Germany financial watchdog, BaFin, they were supposed to keep an eye on such things like this, and they were surprised of the crisis that has surfaced. And they have stated that the market value of Wirecard, around 11 billion euros, has been wiped off because of this total disaster that they call it. And they have stated that it is a scandal that something like this could have happened or could happen. And question is, what were they doing and what happened? So when the time that the whistleblower was, informing or stating of the anomalies that is occurring in the company, why did BaFin did not do anything about it and disregarded those concerns? And they've been under fire because of said issues. Now, question here is, what happened to all the money? Did it really ever exist and so forth? Now, according to German lawmaker Fabio De Masi, said the BaFin failed to do its duty, and its credit rating was ultimately withdrawn from the agency of Moody's. Now, obviously, the company has been a rare gem in terms of technology success. Obviously, Germany has been known for a manufacturing country for car makers such as automaker Volkswagen, Mercedes-Benz, and so forth. So the next question you have to ask yourself, did the money really exist? Now, looking for the cash, as mentioned, Ernst Young's mentioned that there was no such money that was, found, but later on, allegedly, the whistleblower said that the transactions were a sham, so they were fictitious. If that were the case, then it would have been ended on that note. But, where is it? Now, the search culminated, of all places, missing for the cash, hit a dead end, and they mentioned the Philippines. So how did the Philippines became involved in this scandal? Now, according to another article, to Rappler.com, there was this article stating that Mr. Tolentino, a trustee of Wirecard, and he was allegedly involved in said scandal, but in the article it stated that he was a victim or a frame-up of or identity theft, according to him. Now, to elaborate further, now Mr. Tolentino is a Filipino lawyer who was made a trustee for a company. But according to his accounts, that the said company did not identify themselves as Wirecard to begin with. They were approached by foreigners early this year, around February, inquiring how to set up a financial technology company. And they asked for his services to expedite the process, since typically corporations takes up about a few months, 2 to 3 months, and they wanted him to expedite the process, so they asked him to be a trustee to help in that endeavor. And they identified themselves initially as Citadel Singapore. Okay. Now, for those who are not familiar, Citadel is a American multinational hedge fund company. So it's not similar to Wirecard to begin with. Now, obviously, being a trustee of a company, which means that an individual person or a member of a board given control or powers of administration of property in trust with a legal obligation to administer it solely for the purpose specified. Anyway, to cut the story short, what happened later on was interesting. He opened Euro account, which was required for being a trustee here. He opened an account in BDO branch in BGC or Bonifacio Global City, and then another account later on with BPI in Makati. Now, what's interesting here, based on the accounts, there was another person involved, an employee for BPI, for creating fictitious or false statement. Now, that's according to the banks themselves. But the employee created accounts on another location associating said company, Wirecard, with BPI and BDO, to which the different banking companies contested that they have actually created said account. So the question here is, where did all the money come to? If there was a false account that was created, what happened to it? Which later Mr. Tolentino mentioned that upon hearing what happened with Wirecard, several people threatened him regarding where did the money, where are their money, where's their money? They're looking for it. So they made several death threats, and to my surprise, so if their transactions were fictitious, why is it that several people are looking or threatening Mr. Tolentino? Anyway, so question here is, either way, if the accounts were fictitious or falsely accumulated or created, to what ends? So did it is its purpose just to create a dummy account, or is it a way to launder money of sorts? And was there any trail? But said companies are contesting that uh, the accounts were fake and falsified and did not exist to begin with. Well, stay tuned. So I'll keep you updated for the latest developments for the company. Now, continuing, now obviously many companies have been trying to reopen their businesses with regards to the state of many companies. So from the retail industry to the airline industry, and some are having difficulty than others. Now, obviously, for retailers, restaurants, it's much easier to manage the people coming in and out. Now, on the other hand, story has been surfaced. Now, if you've been following the previous live streams, Disneyland has been in discussion of reopening their theme parks later this year, actually by next month. Now, concerns regarding the safety of employees as well as visitors are their primary concern. And according to the latest article, let's take a look here. Where is it? There you go. So according to the Disneyland workers, the proposed reopening for July may be too early. Now, concerns of, safety risk from not just the employees but as well as the visitors is the main concerns. Now, there have been several discussions already between the workers union as well as the company on how to go about dealing with the situation. Now, they mentioned something about testing for temperature checks, and then, what else? Temperature checks requiring masks from people coming in and out. Now, is it enough for those measures to be implemented and still maintain the high degree of safety for every party? Now, suspending parades is another, fireworks display, and other activities that create crowds. If you're trying to avoid crowds, then why open the park in the first place, right? Because the primary concern here is the safety. Now, obviously, on the other hand, you have to be wary of the cost that the company are piling up over the months that they're not operating. But at the end of the day, is it worth the cost that you'll be enduring later on if and when cases would arise based on people or visitors going into your theme parks? And actually, in previous discussions, they already mentioned that they're trying to put a disclaimer so that they are absolved in the sense of the responsibility if they were to contract the said virus. But that would be a nightmare if that were the case. Now, take note, people visiting the theme parks ranges, from the young kids all the way to adults to older people. So, is it worth it to open the business and have this PR nightmare later on? So they have to discuss this in depth and think of the major stakeholders who will be affected significantly. And another thing, since Disney theme parks operate in California as well as in Florida, and if you've been following the several news reports and updates, Florida's already having an uptick in terms of number of cases being reported. And not only that, so apart from Disney theme parks trying to reopen, the Sports League of National Basketball Association, or the NBA, is going to hold their season in Florida. So is it easier to manage teams in a bubble, so to speak, compared to a theme park where you're dealing with tens of thousands of people going to different places, walking around, kids touching several things? There's a high probability of contracting said viruses. So the question here is, the workers were concerned in terms of serious testing. So would you require visitors to get tested before going in and then showing the results that they are virus free and so forth before you can enter said park and so forth? So I think there are a lot of protocols that has to be implemented before visitors can feel safer in terms of visiting. Personally, I would be apprehensive in terms of going to theme parks, knowing there's an inherent risk of getting the virus. But again, the point of the matter here is, can the resort operate safely? If they can guarantee that, or closely close to guarantee that, then that's a big difference in terms of just reopening for the sake of opening said businesses, right? So what do you think? Leave your comments down below. And finally, speaking of local news, now obviously we've discussed BPI early on in how they are embroiled in the scandal with Wirecard. Some good news here. So BPI plans to issue bonds to help our many businesses in the country, which needs it badly. So these are the micro SMEs, or I'm sorry, MSMEs, micro, small, medium enterprises. So BPI is doing its part to help our many businesses here in our country who are hit by the pandemic. Now, according to the company, or BPI, they are quoted saying, in recognition of the significant contribution of the MSMEs of the Philippine economy, and as a direct response to their needs as one of the sectors hardest hit by the global pandemic, proceeds for the issuance will be used to finance or refinance eligible MSMEs under the bank's recently established sustainable funding framework. Now, kudos for them for doing their part to help our many businesses. Now, obviously, problem with bonds is who can avail those finances, but the origin of the funding from BPI started earlier this month in trying to create a sustainable funding framework which cover projects deemed socially relevant aside from initiatives on the environment. And then it expanded to Green Finance Framework when it rolled out last year. So they're offering programs to support the MSMEs, loan payment deferral program, as well as waiver of fees for online fund transfer and transaction. Now, obviously, the key point here is to encourage many small businesses, micro small businesses, to avail of this fund so that they can survive or get through this difficult period. Now, according to the CEO of BPI, Mr. Cesar Consing, MSMEs account for a relatively small percentage of total bank borrowings, but a very large percentage of total nationwide employment. So loans to MSMEs go a long way to keeping Filipinos working. Now, obviously, even though MSMEs, account for a small percentage, but won't it be a big incentive for many financial institutions to help them succeed so that they grow to a bigger business, so that they can borrow a bigger sum of amount, which benefits both parties. The business succeeds, the banking institution benefits as well and profits from them, and and generate more employment, and the entire country or the entire economy will benefit as well. Now, according to BPI, they have already raised 33 or almost 34 billion pesos worth of bonds since March, more than 6 times its initial size of issue of 5 billion. And the papers have a tenor of 1.5 years and an interest rate of 4.05% payable quarterly. So it's somewhat reasonable in terms of interest rate. The question is, do the many businesses are aware of this? Is it being marketed properly so that many of the businesses can take advantage of said finances? Anyway, this concludes our discussion for today's live stream. Now, if you have any questions, leave your comments down below and I will get back to you. Now, also, don't forget to hit the notification bell icon so you can stay updated with the latest news as well as videos. As always, thanks for watching. I'll see you again next week. Same time, same channel. Take care. Bye. Where's the outro?